Welcome to the Newton County Democratic Party's Town Hall Forum series. In round 2 of tonight's forum, the candidates vying for the District 3 County Commission seat join us. Elena Sanders, incumbent Nancy Schultz, and now, our moderator for the evening, please welcome our chairman, Ryan Barrett.
Hello, this is Mike Hesterly. Thank you for joining us this evening for our forum. Our guests are candidates Elena Sanders and Nancy Schultz, candidates for Newton County's Board of Commissioners, District 3. New Democratic Party Chair Ryan Barrett is your host. Is your moderator for this forum. And now I'm going to give it to Ryan to take over. Ryan.
Good evening, and thank you, candidates, for joining us for this forum tonight. I apologize about the technical difficulties we had in the previous one. Thank you to our neighbors and our fellow voters for tuning in with us. 2020 is the most pivotal election of our lifetime, and solid leadership is a necessity. Now I'll review the guidelines of this forum that you received prior to this dialogue. These are the guidelines for the forum that the leadership and candidates have been given. I will call on candidates in alphabetical order by last name. When you are called on, you will be unmuted by the host, and you'll be provided up to 2 minutes to give an introduction of yourself and your campaign. I will ask a question that was submitted at random. Candidates will be called on to respond in alphabetical order by last name. The candidate answering the question will be provided 1 minute to respond. If an opponent is mentioned in the response by another candidate, the mentioned opponent will be afforded 30 seconds to respond. Time will be called by the first vice chair, who is our host for the evening. All candidates will not necessarily be asked all questions. The allotted time for this forum is 1 hour. If all questions have been given the opportunity to be presented, I will then recycle the questions and continue in the order previously mentioned until the time is called by our host. At the closing of questions, I will call on candidates in alphabetical order by last name, and you'll be afforded an additional 2 minutes to give a closing statement. This forum is live streamed on Facebook. All comments are disabled and removed to ensure that the focus of this forum is on the candidates and not on the individuals wishing to cause outside disruption. At the end of the forum, you may find a recording available on our YouTube and Facebook page. Now, at this time, I would like to call on our candidates. I would first give the floor to Ms. Elena Sanders. Ms. Sanders.
Hello, my neighbors. I am Elena Sanders, your candidate for Board of Commissioners here in District 3. I am a resident of District 3 for 13 years, going on 14 years, but in Georgia for 20 years. I am also a business professor where I teach the art of business and marketing, operations management, PR, and marketing, as well as I have a 15-year-old wonderful daughter who attends the Newton College Career Academy, STEM Academy in the medical field. So I'm excited to be here today. Not only that, I'm an international fitness presenter where I provide services for many corporations here in the Atlanta area, such as Cigna Insurance, MARTA, and many others. And I thank you so much for this opportunity, and I'm looking forward to it. I am Elena Sanders.
Thank you, Ms. Sanders. Now, Ms. Nancy Schultz, you have the floor for your introduction, ma'am.
Hello, everyone. I'm Nancy Schultz, and I'm running for re-election as your 3rd District Commissioner. I want to thank the Democratic Party for hosting this event and for all the candidates who are participating in these forums. Now, a little bit about me. I ran for office in 2008 because I was concerned by the unbridled growth that had occurred, especially in the western part of the county. My husband Dick and I own a business in the district, and we saw the effects firsthand. We raised our children, Alexandria and Richard, in Newton County. Working together with the citizens, it became clear to me how important quality of life was to all of us. So once I was elected, I rolled up my sleeves and got to work passing 2 overlays, Alman and Salem. They provided building and design standards for the district. What surprised me was the depth of the good old boy politics and financial instability. Newton County has been through some tough years in the past providing and maintaining services, especially during the last financial crisis, coupled with cronyism and special interest. This affected us in moving forward in a healthy way. I'm most proud of the fact that the issues we tackle today as a governing body are guided by our citizens through the Citizens Needs Assessment and line item accountable to the people. Our bond rating was recently upgraded to AAA. I'm proud of the fact that we are now on stronger financial footing and better positioned to survive the effects of COVID-19. I obtained a master's degree from Vanderbilt University as a nurse practitioner and have over 35 years experience in public health. And let me just assure you, these last 2 months have been the ultimate public health experience and a testament to the power of community. We have much to be thankful for in Newton County, and our most important resource are the people we serve. I look forward to serving District 3 and the people of Newton County another 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Schultz. A reminder, this is not a debate. This is not a time to sling mud upon one another. We want to provide a fair and equal opportunity to have candidates in front of the constituency. Any issues that arise in the forum that may violate this will be decided upon by unanimous agreement from the moderator and the host, and whatever decision is made is final. Now, for our first round of questions, our first question goes to you, Ms. Elena Sanders, and that question is, many of the constituents in the district are not aware that we have a commissioner that speaks solely for our district. How will you change that, and what will you do to build community in District 3?
Ryan, I'm so glad you asked that question, because going out in my journey of doing my campaigning, that was one of the issues. I've asked them, who is your commissioner? What does commissioner does? I never got a definite answer, or they didn't even know what was the job of the commissioner or who the commissioner was at the moment. So to build community, we have to involve the people. The people put us there. And if you forget about the people, then you're really not doing your job, because this is what we need to do as commissioners. For one, we need to have a town hall. That's what I've always said since I've started this campaign. There needs to be either a monthly or bi-monthly town hall to include all of District 3 in decision-making, as well as what is on the agenda. As well as I have been talking weekly with a lot of the neighbors in District 3 who has just recently formulated a Facebook page called District 3, The Community. And it's moderated by those neighbors in District 3 so that communication can filter down. That's the biggest issue, that information is not being disseminated down to the people. So in order for us to build community, you have to involve the people that put you there.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, so your question is, why was a fee assessed to the convenience center when it was free? And what are the collected fees going towards?
Am I on? Okay. So back in 2015, we determined that we looked at the budget, and the budget showed that our convenience centers were costing the county about $2 million each year. And so at that time, we appointed a citizens committee to look at what we could do to make the recycling centers more less of a drain on the Board of Commissioners. That committee then gave us, it was a citizens committee, and they gave us a recommendation to move to a solid waste authority. So actually the convenience center fees are not determined by the Board of Commissioners, they are determined by the solid waste authority. Now, they were never free because they cost the taxpayer, and they were and those, when you use those convenience centers, your taxes were continuing to go up, and there was a burden on the budget that didn't allow us to do other things like public safety. Now, if someone is concerned about those fees, they can come before the Solid Waste Authority. We do have hardship offers for if you feel like you can't pay the full $155, you can apply for a hardship and your fees will be reduced. But I would suggest the Solid Waste Authority meets on the third Thursday of every month, and they would love to hear from constituents that have a problem with that, because that's where it needs to be addressed, not with the Board of Commissioners. The Board of Commissioners doesn't even own the recycling centers anymore. The Solid Waste Authority does.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, your question is, what would be your plans to bring new businesses not only to your district, but to the county as well?
One of the main things that I've done, especially on this campaign, was ask the people, what do they want and what do they see need to be happening within the district as well as in Newton County. That's the first thing. It's not about what the commissioners want, what I want, it's what the people want and want to see change within the community. I will also listen to the people. I've had many suggestions as far as they want to see changes within the restaurants. A lot of people are tired of fast food. They're living on a healthy track now. They want to see different restaurants that are in the area that cater to different lifestyles, as well as businesses that cater to District 3. A lot of our residents have to go over to Rockdale County to shop. So a lot of the tax dollars are not in District 3. They do all of their shopping either Rockdale or they're going downtown because the businesses are not accessible. So with those places that they normally shop, we need to provide those in District 3. Yes, there are policies and procedures that have to be put in place before these businesses are put in the system or in District 3. But we want to listen to the neighbors to find out what they want in their community, because they live here and they have to be the ones that are in the area.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what have you done in the district specifically with our current budget, and how will you help balance it while also helping our senior citizens, youth, and community to flourish?
Now we're talking about the FY20 budget, correct? Mm-hmm. So with the FY20 budget, there are, we're in a much better position going into this crisis with COVID, because we have a fund balance that is much stronger, and we've put money into that fund balance so that we could be in a stronger position. Because of that, we also lowered our bond rating, which means that more investment can come into our community. Now, in terms of youth and the seniors, we just recently, it was either our last board meeting or the board meeting before that, we accepted a donation of 85 acres on the northwest corner of the district that borders Earl O'Neill Park, that's right across the line in Rockdale County. One of the things that we can do going forward, we're not going to be able to do that with this current budget, but we can do it going forward, is to look at how we create passive parks for our youth and for our seniors. In the current budget, we also were able to give raises to our employees, and we were able to give the public safety, such as in the Sheriff's Department, which is a real concern, was we were able to increase their wages so that they now have a competitive wage. And that's something that in prior years we had not been able to do, because we had been making a lot of progress in terms of our financial stability.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, how will you better allocate funds in our highest crime neighborhoods in Newton County? Oh, hold on one second. I don't think, okay. There we go. There you go.
One of the reasons why we have high crime rates in the county is because there's not much for our youth to do. Let's first get to the problem before we talk about the crime. The problem is, especially in District 3, we have youth that don't have extracurricular activities outside of the school, and things are in place for them to be active and put their thoughts and focus in something where they won't be thinking about crime or thinking about things that are not of their character or going out of their character. That's number one. I will also build a close relationship with our law enforcement, our Sheriff Brown, and many others that are on the law enforcement and the boards here as well. We need to make sure the funds are allocated to our sheriff department so they can have the right and the amount of people actually surveilling the areas. Because when you cut the budget of law enforcement, you cut back the time that those patrolmen can patrol certain areas so that people know that they are secure and crime free. So we have to make sure we build that relationship with our law enforcement, provide those things for our youth so they can stay out of trouble, a community center, a bigger park. We don't have a park in District 3. All the parks are in various areas.
Time.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what is your knowledge of the JDA, or the Joint Development Authority, and what is its importance?
Well, thank you for asking that question. The JDA is the Joint Development Authority. It's a 4-county park that's on the eastern side of the county. It was created in 1998, and it now houses our biotech campus. It's where we have Stanton Springs. It's where we've been able to attract Takeda, which was originally Baxter, which was one of the largest economic investments in the state of Georgia at the time. We've also been able to attract Facebook. So with that JDA, we are able to, the original land has now been paid for, and now we are at a point where we are able to recoup the tax benefits from it. Since it's a 4-county park, there are those tax benefits are divided among the 4 counties. So Newton County gets around 32% of the tax benefits. It is a huge economic driver for our county. And for example, yesterday I just got a notice that Takeda is on the forefront of developing a treatment for COVID-19.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, COVID-19 has affected the entire world. How would the Newton County Board of Commissioners better prepare Newton County for future emergencies such as this? And that's your question.
Okay. Well, as we say in the business world, you have to have a contingency plan, a plan A, a plan B, a plan C, and sometimes a D. You have to make sure that we won't go through this process again. If we had processes in place, then it would have made a better maneuver when we had the COVID-19 catastrophe, the pandemic. So for future references, we're going to learn from the mistakes that we made currently, as well as apply different things. So when we do come through another pandemic, we know exactly what to do because we have that plan in place. It's so important that we think about our people and how we're going to protect our people in the county by having those things in place. Not only that, by having those things in place, our citizens, our neighbors would know that the county, the commissioners care about them as a people and not just about things that are happening or economics and so forth, even though that's important. But if we have that plan A, B, and C in place, we won't have those issues, and we have to enforce those mandates to keep our people safe.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what is your knowledge of the Salem overlay, and how would you address the onslaught of new builders who wish to build new homes and not wish to conform to the overlay standards?
Well, I know the Salem overlay like the back of my hand, because Salem and Alman were overlays that I was a champion of. And when you ask about builders that don't want to comply with the overlay, I can tell you that I've been steadfast in sticking to those overlay requirements. Now, when you have zonings, everyone has an opportunity to have some variances, and we have had other commissioners that want to allow variances, but I have stood firm, and I can tell you that anyone on the commission now knows that I'm going to stick by my guns. And for example, we had a developer in the enclave that wanted to push the bubble and did not want to comply. And it took us about a year, and we said, no, you're going to comply. So that's what's going to happen.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, why was a fee assessed to the convenience center, talking about the garbage collection center, when it was free, and what are the collected fees going towards?
And that is also a good question that our neighbors actually want to know. The land is paid for by the taxpayers. All of the things with the convenience center is paid for by the taxpayers. The fee should have not been assessed. I know that the authority has been formulated and some of the commissioners sit on that board, but there should not be assessed. And also, we definitely need to know exactly where the fees are actually going, because that has been my question, as well as the neighbors in District 3. Where are these fees going and who is it benefiting? That's number one. You have those in our district who are elderly, veterans, who are suffering because of this fee. Trash is piling up in their garages. We see more trash on the roads. It's also going to cost the city much more money because they have to go pick up the additional trash where people cannot afford the fee for the convenience center. So it's going to cost the city money as well. So the fee should have not been assessed when it's already paid for. The land is also already paid for by the taxpayers. So that is the main question. Where is the money going?
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what ideas would you have to facilitate safer and more convenient voting in our county, such as Sunday voting or absentee voting by mail, and how would you make these a more permanent option?
Can you repeat the question? I'm not sure I understand the question.
What ideas would you have to facilitate safer and more convenient voting in our county, like Sunday early voting or voting by mail, absentee voting, and how would you make these changes that you have in mind more permanent?
Well, I think that first and foremost, we have to get through COVID-19, and we have to look at how we have new voting machines, and all of this is kind of a confluence at the same time where we're having to deal with the new machines that require some additional hardwiring, some additional electrical work. What I would like to see once we get through this particular primary is perhaps in November, I'd like to see voting at the West Side precinct. It is very centrally located to the western side of the county, probably more so centrally located than the Denny Dobbs Park and the Porter Library. So I'd really like to see that we can have some voting machines there. And since that's a new facility, it is wired to be able to handle these new voting machines. I think that it's important that we give the voters as many opportunities in as convenient a location to be able to cast their ballot. We can see that the absentee ballot is working.
Time.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, let's see, what would be your plan for the county to provide adequate access to public safety, such as fire stations, EMS, etc., as this is a safety and economic issue as homeowners insurance rates will and are going up?
One of the main issues is communication. You know, I'm big on communication. We have to provide that communication to our homeowners, our residents in District 3 on how to access these different facilities. That's number one. If the communication is not there, they won't have the information. I know that in Newton County, we use a lot of third party for our emergency systems and so forth. We would have to see how can Newton County have their own, because even Piedmont Hospital doesn't even have their own emergency system. We all use third party. We're one of the counties that use third party emergency systems. So by the residents having access to that, number one is communication, providing a plan on which fire station, making them aware of that. I know the city has a plan and also the county has a plan, but the people are not aware. That's the issue. They're not aware of the emergency standards and emergency procedures of the county. So we have to involve the people.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what are your thoughts or views on the Board of Commissioners providing permitting and review fee forgiveness in an effort to attract new business such as Lytle?
So we just did that, and I can tell you that we have to do that on a case-by-case basis. We typically don't relieve businesses from fees, but in this particular case, what we needed was they were going to have some road improvements. And you know that Lytle is on the access road. And so those road improvements are critical. So Lytle came to us and said, we will handle the road improvements if you will take an offset. So the fees that we would have collected would have been about $300,000. And what we waived was $200,000. So we're still going to collect $100,000, but it's an offset from what we would have had to come up with for the road improvements. So it's really kind of an offsetting journal entry, I would say. And those road improvements are critical, and we can get those road improvements a lot faster by Lidl doing those road improvements, as opposed to us having to wait on GDOT and our matching funds.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Sanders, how will you address keeping our green spaces better in our district with regards to mowing the grass on easements and beautification within District 3?
That is definitely an awesome question, because as we see, District 3 has been the stepchild. A lot of grass has been growing and up to my knees. I've seen that in many places. We have to make sure that we are patrolling the area to make sure that our city, our district is beautiful. We want our citizens to be proud of the district by having scheduled maintenance and also working with those that are in the district. I also believe in, before we use third-party contractors, we need to use those in the city. We have much talent in District 3 that can do the job. So we work with our citizens that have actual businesses and dealing with lawn care and making those districts actually certain parts in the area clean, as well as the lawn is mowed. So if you work with various lawn cares that are in District 3 and have them with certain areas, or they're assigned to certain areas, they'll be responsible for keeping the district as where it needs to be, and we'll be proud of being District 3.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what would you do to shut down companies that pose a health risk to the residents of Newton County?
So we've had an experience with that right now, or this in the last 12 months. It depends on how the company is regulated. Let's take, for example, BD, which is the old name was BARD. BD had ethylene oxide emissions, and those emissions are governed by the Clean Air Act. Clean Air Act comes under EPD and EPA jurisdiction. So at the local level, we can take a stand and say, we don't want you to have those emissions, but the ultimate authority is with the governor. Now you can see where we reached out to the governor. We have the county itself has a really good relationship with the governor. We have a lot of people from Newton County that are in the governor's office. So we reached out to the governor and said, please, do something about BD. And so what happened back in, I believe it was October, the Attorney General issued a consent order, and that consent order is still in effect until June 30th. So it's important for us to know where we have jurisdiction and where we can exercise our authority. On some of these companies, it's at the state level, and we have to mobilize our state representatives and our state legislators.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, what is your knowledge of the JDA, or the Joint Development Authority, and what is its importance?
The importance of economic development and growth, number one. We have to, as well as small businesses here in the District 3, as well as in Newton County. I am a stickler for economics. I'm a stickler for growth. But I also believe that we also need to look at our small businesses that are here in the area. And providing what we need in District 3, I will build a relationship with the Economic Development Office and the JDA so that we can actually build a bigger community, as well as progressing and not regression. That's number one. Making the citizens aware of what's coming into Newton County and what's coming into District 3. And also providing those suggestions that those in the district want to see come into their various district and various areas. So with that, I will also build a relationship to make sure that we're providing the growth that we need here in District 3.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, how will you better allocate funds in our highest crime neighborhoods in Newton County?
Well, one of the things right now is that public safety occupies almost 50% of our budget. And with that, it is important that the sheriff has a large percentage of that. As the Board of Commissioners, we can allocate funds to the sheriff, and then the sheriff determines exactly how he wants to use those. So when we're allocating those funds, the sheriff comes to us with a proposal. And this year he has come to us with a proposed budget that, when he met with us last week, I believe it was, he said that he was pretty comfortable with where we are, because his main concern last year was to get the staffing levels up. We've got to have patrols. That is critical. That, especially in District 3, we've got to have patrols. That's where you meet with the people, you're able to build relationships with neighborhoods see patrols out in the community. And so I do believe that the sheriff is making that effort to hire a staff that he can then send out on patrol, and that's where we need to be.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, what are your plans to make your district as viable as the other districts in Newton County? And how will you use the allocated $550,000 of the budget to help the district?
Great question, Ryan. That's one of my plights of running for this position. District 3, you probably heard me say the word many times, is antiquated. If you look at the other districts of the other counties, let's compare Gwinnett County. Gwinnett County has technology in their libraries for their students, for their youth to be able to use green screen technology, Photoshop, various software. If you go to Covington's library or Newton County Library, it's antiquated. It's a library from when I was in high school. I can tell you that. We are on a different plan here in 2020. Millennials and centennials have to have something that sparks their mind and their attention. Technology is the key for this new century. And we have to make sure that we have those things for our students and for our children to be able to progress in their future plans, to progress in their life. So if we're not providing those things for our youth, then we are the ones at fault. As far as progression and making sure advancement, building a community-based center that provides the learning, that provides the technology, that also gives education to our seniors who want to have certain education, providing those things. A lot of seniors are not acclimated to social media. I'm a social media college professor. I don't mind offering my time to show them how to get acclimated to those different things, because technology is not going away. It's going to advance a lot more.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, many of the constituents in the district are not aware that we have a commissioner that speaks solely for our district. How will you change that, and what will you do to build community in our district?
Ryan, first I want to just make a correction from the last question, because there is no $500,000 allocation for the county budget. There is about $492,000 that was appropriate, or that was determined in the 2017 SPLOST, but there are no allocations per district for the budget. So I just want to make sure that that's clear. In terms of the district commissioner, one of the trademarks for me is that I've held regular fireside chats. I hold them when the first several years I was holding them every other month, and the attendance started to wane a little bit, so we went to 4 times a year. And then the people that attended said, let's go to 3 times a year, and let's make sure that one of those is around the budget. So that's what I do right now. I also send out an email a minimum of twice a month. Here lately with the COVID-19, I've been sending them out weekly. I've encouraged anyone who reaches out to me to give me their email address and let me put them on my database so that I can send that email to them. I have a Facebook page. I've recently started with Instagram. That's not something that I had done before, but I've started to, I was more of an Instagram voyeur, I think. So now I'm really trying to really embrace Instagram, because you do reach a different age group with Instagram. think that it's critical also, now that we're in the Zoom era, to start having Zoom town hall meetings with my constituents. You'll notice that I've been interviewing different, like I interviewed Billy Fortson, who's made an investment in the community in District 3. I interviewed him and posted that interview today.
Thank you. And I do want to make a note. I'm glad that you did bring that up. All of these questions that are being put forward today are questions that are directly submitted from the community. None of these questions come from any of the elected officials or anyone that serves in a leadership capacity. These are generic submitted questions. So thank you for clarifying that, Ms. Schultz. Ms. Sanders,
Yes, sir.
let's see. What have you done, or what will you do in the district specifically with our current budget to balance it, but to also help our senior citizens, youth, and the community in general flourish?
That's one of the things that I've talked about previously also on my town halls I've been having consistently on my lives and Facebook. One of the main things I want to do is combine the community. That's one of the first things I've been doing. I hold weekly Zoom meetings with those in District 3. They hop on, ask me questions. They tell me what their feedback is. They tell me what they want to see, what they want to see change, or what has not been done. So I have to listen to them first before I actually allocate or do something in the district, because it's not my money. I'm managing it as their commissioner, but it's the people's right to know and what they want in the actual district. I want to make sure that when I'm utilizing that fund, they're a part of all decision making. It's the people that put me in place, not I. I have to make sure that in team, there's no I in team. It's not about Elena Sanders, it's about District 3. So I have to listen to the people to see what they want and what they want to see in a district. Also, I have to explain to them and educate them on economic development, that some businesses do have to come into the county so we can see growth and provide those funds we need for our district. But I want to make sure that those funds are utilized for parks for our children, community centers. We don't have any of that. That's all in other districts where they have to travel to go to other.
Oh, did you want to finish your statement? You have a few seconds.
Travel to go to other districts, and a lot of people, a lot of our neighbors in District 3 do not have the transportation.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, let's see. In the past, Newton County has been reactive to external events such as the BD ethylene oxide event and the COVID-19 pandemic. What proactive steps would you take to possibly avert future dangers?
Well, you know, one of the things that we've had a pandemic plan, we've had a mitigation plan for the county. COVID-19 is a different animal. I mean, literally a different animal, because it jumped from animals to humans. And a lot of what we are facing is something that is historic and something that's unprecedented. One of the best results out of this particular crisis that we have is that we have built an amazing relationship with our district health director, Dr. Audrey Arona. She is available to us on a regular basis. I text her several times a week for information. I think we're all learning from this. We're gathering the data. I've been in public health all of my work life, and we've been doing pandemic planning and we've been doing pandemic drills, but when you get to the real thing, it's completely different. That experience is something that we have to learn from. We have to, and in the nursing world, we assess, we plan, we implement, and then we go back to evaluate and back to assess again. So that's what we have to do here.
All right, thank you. Ms. Sanders, what is your knowledge of the Salem overlay, and how would you address the onslaught of new builders who wish to build new homes and not wish to conform to overlay standards?
Well, first we need to do the research. I would be a new candidate that would, officer that would be as the commissioner. So I would love to do the research first to see what is actually occurring. So that's one of the main things I would do for that. As well as the homes being built, we have a lot of residents. We have a lot of people that are moving into Newton County. Newton County is starting to be the hot spot. As well as you said, Facebook is coming. Some of the movie production companies are coming. We have a lot that's coming into the county to where homes need to be built. But to coincide with the amount of homes that are being built, we have to make sure that it coincides with the amount of businesses that we have in the facility. That's one of the issues, because we have so many residents, but we don't have enough in the district for them to even put the tax dollars back in, just only in our district, but just Newton County as well. So I want to make sure that I take a look at what's happening before I assess a finalization to it, so I can make sure I have an accurate answer to that.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what would be your plans to bring new businesses to the district as well as to the county?
Great question. We have an economic development team. We have a chamber of commerce. Now we are in the process of revamping how that works with the county, but I can tell you personally, I have a very good relationship with that economic development team. And Sarah Hall Phillips, or Sarah Phillips Hall, I got it backwards. Sarah and I go a long way back because she was an employee of mine, so I know her very well. And Sarah is really keen on developing, on looking at that Salem corridor, the Almond corridor, and how we move forward. You know, we've got Lidl coming in. Lidl is going to bring a lot, 270 jobs to the Almond Road area. We've got the new Chrysler dealership. That whole Almond corridor is going to change dramatically. But now we've really got to go back and look at Salem Road, because one of the concerns from me during this COVID crisis was the number of independent businesses that were so impacted by COVID-19, and how do we help them to become vibrant again? So I would say that first is to get, we did a retail study, I guess it was 2 years ago. So we have the blueprint for what we need to do. And once we get through COVID-19 and we can start getting people back in their businesses, back to being able to shop like they want to shop, then we'll move forward with the plans that we have in place.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, what are your views on the SPLOST, or the Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax, and what would be your plans for upcoming SPLOST opportunities?
As a resident of District 3, I live in the trenches with everybody else, and reviewing the SPLOST funds and where the funds were allocated, I have to say I was disappointed. Majority of those funds were allocated in other districts. As I stated earlier, District 3 seems like the stepchild. Those funds were not allocated in District 3, 1.6% if you do the math, which also is showcased on the website, the county website. Anybody can see that information. So with those funds, I want to make sure that District 3 is not missed. There's a lot of things that need to happen in District 3. I have traveled the roads of District 3 and I've hit some bumps and bruises that the roads need to be actually done. We need parks. I've said that many times, and I've talked to many of the neighbors. That's one of the main concerns, those who have children. It's like, where is the park in our district? Where can our children go play? Instead of us utilizing a lot of that money for other districts to upkeep their parks, let's get something in our district so we can have our own as well. Let's utilize some of those funds in our district so that we can have a better District 3 and also be in competition, or not, I wouldn't say competition, but at least on the same level as the other districts and having those great things in their area. We want to have great things in District 3 as well.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, why should voters choose you over your opponent in this primary?
Well, I have the leadership skills. I have proven leadership skills. I've been in this office for 12 years, and I have seen what has happened between, initially we started out where we had some cronyism and some special interests, and we've moved beyond that. And I've led that charge. We now have financial stability. We have citizen engagement. We have a citizens, we did a strategic plan, and I was one of the key people that was involved in that strategic plan. So I'm a hard worker. I don't think that you can say that anybody can outwork me. And I believe that I am the best choice for the district because I have the proven results.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, what are the 4 major boundary lines of your district, and what do you feel are the unique challenges to District 3?
Rockdale, we have Henry.
Oh, hold on one moment. I'm sorry. We'll start you over in a second. Okay, Mike unmuted you again. Go ahead.
Rockdale, Henry County, Morgan, as well as we have Walton, and we might throw Butts in there as well. But our one of our main boundaries is Rockdale County. I want to speak on that. I shop a lot in Rockdale. Many of our residents shop in Rockdale County. A lot of District 3 taxes are in Rockdale County because what's actually in the county. We have to make sure that we provide those things so we can bring those tax dollars back to the county. How we can make it better is providing, it's simple, providing what we need for our residents so that they will feel more proud to be able to shop in District 3 and don't feel like they have to go travel far. I've even had a resident say, we don't even hardly have daycares in District 3. She's like, I have to go bring my child all the way to Rockdale County when I can have daycares in my area. There's different things that needs to happen to where we can bring those tax dollars back into Newton County.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what are your views for the special purpose local option sales tax, or SPLOST, and what would be your plans for upcoming SPLOST opportunities?
Thank you, Ryan. So the current SPLOST is a 2017 SPLOST, and on the 2017 SPLOST, we have about 490 something thousand dollars that's allocated for the West Side Youth Facility. That's my priority right now, is to make sure that that West Side Youth Facility is built. And most importantly, that how is it managed? So we are working together with the Newton County Boys and Girls Club so that they can manage that facility, because you can't just build a facility and then not have management. So that's number one. Also, in the 2017 SPLOST, we have allocated funds for the widening of Brown Bridge, Kroll, and the interchange at I-20. So we need to get those done. Now, in terms of future SPLOST, we've talked today about more parks, more sidewalks. We have a comprehensive trail plan that was adopted back in, I believe it was 2012. And now with this particular park, or this particular green space that was donated 2 weeks ago, these 85 acres, we can take that and have an intergovernmental agreement with Rockdale County at Earl O'Neill Park to expand the facilities there. I would say that in the future SPLOST, we need to also activate monies that can expand that trail system, because as we've seen with COVID-19, some of our indoor facilities are not going to be viable. We've got to expand outdoor facilities.
Thank you. Ms. Sanders, how will you address the lack of sidewalks in our district to help keep pedestrians safe and healthy?
Closely with the.
Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. Mike, have you unmuted her? Okay, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, you're working hard. That's fine. One of the main things is that working with the other commissioners to put together a plan to say that when builders come into the districts, that they include sidewalks. This has been an ongoing issue, and many of the residents in District 3 is like, where are the sidewalks? My kids cannot walk on the sidewalks in my subdivision. If I want to walk on the highway or jog, there are no sidewalks. It's not safe. So something needs to be put in place to where when builders come in, sidewalks need to be mandatory for the safety of our people. I'm from Louisiana, and we're known for sidewalks. When I came to Georgia, I know that's been very limited. So something needs to be done to where we can provide those things for our residents and that they feel safe. And that plan needs to include some type of mandate or some type of policy that sidewalks must be included when they're building.
Thank you. Ms. Schultz, what are your plans to make District 3 as viable as the other districts in Newton County? And how will you use the $550,000 budget to help the district?
Now, the $550,000 budget from the SPLOST budget? There's no.
This is the question that was asked of the constituent. I know you had mentioned a little bit of a correction on that, but this was the question that came up in the randomizer. So,
Well, let me just say that there is no $550,000 budget in the general fund that is district specific. When we talk about what we need to do to make District 3 viable, I think it's important to remember that we are one Newton, and what's good for District 3 is good for all of Newton. What's good for all of Newton is good for District 3. Right now, what we're trying to do with our budget, with our current budget, is to make sure that we provide for public safety. We provide for making sure that our roads and our bridges, we have a lot of roads in Newton, in District 3, because we have a lot of subdivisions. As the last question about sidewalks, we already have an ordinance in place that requires developers to put sidewalks into subdivisions. But then we have to take care of them. We have to take care of all the roads that we have put into the district. And that's something that it costs about $100,000 per road mile. Well, that's a lot of money out of a budget. And when we're talking about the number, I looked at how many road miles have been paved in District 3 in the last few years. It's about $3.8 million to do that.
thank you. All right, ladies, this is the last question. So you guys have done very well. I've tried to keep you abreast of where we are in our chat box. So Ms. Sanders, your last question is, what ideas would you have as county commissioner to facilitate safer and more convenient voting in our county, like Sunday voting, voting by mail absentee, and how would you make these changes permanent?
Happens.
Right now,
Okay, start now.
that is a great question, Ryan. One of the things I will look at is the stats. Right here during the 2020 election, we had many ballots that for absentee. We can use those statistics to make sure those same individuals get absentee ballots every year, because obviously this is something that they want to do. That can also increase the amount of people that's voting, because it's sad to know that we have almost 18,000 voters in District 3 and only 1,200 actually voted in the last election. That is shameful. So we want to make sure we're getting them to the polls. Also for Sunday voting, the great idea for safety for that, and also to get them to the polls, is to make sure the polls are open after church services. A lot of our pastors are pillars in the actual community, and to encourage their constituents or their actual members to vote will be an opportunity to get more people to the poll, because they're reminding them, although they cannot do certain things because they're 501, but they can encourage their members to vote, which also will increase voting. Safety, as far as especially during the pandemic, making sure that we follow all mandates, making sure that we actually do different cycles, different patterns, so everybody's not in the building at a certain amount of times, especially our elderly, because that's who's being affected, elderly during this time as well. Cleaning, make sure it's safe. But in the future, we could provide all those things we've been doing for COVID-19 to make sure we get everybody to the polls, utilize that for the future so that we can have more voters voting, especially in District 3.
Thank you. And Ms. Schultz, your final question. How will you address keeping our green spaces better in our district with regards to mowing the grass on the easements and general beautification of the district?
So right now we mow 3 times a year. Now, if we've got a rainy season, that's just not enough. So one of the things that we've been doing we invested in this year were growth regulators. So you put out a growth regulator, it retards the growth along the highways. We're actually seeing that that's working, and we probably need to invest more in those growth regulators because it saves money on labor in terms of getting labor out to mow the grass. So I would say that in terms of the mowing, that's key. Now, beautification, we along our county lines, we seem to have a little bit of a problem with littering. And what I would really like to see is that we work closely with our like the Chick-fil-A's and the Hardee's, and because a lot of times it's those fast food restaurants where we're seeing the majority of the littering. A few years ago, I was on Salem Road picking up trash and with one of our state senators, and people were actually passing us, watching us picking up trash and throwing their styrofoam at us so we could pick it up for them. So I think it's important for us to work together. We have a strategic plan with the Solid Waste Authority, and I think that we've got to do a much better job of trying to engage the public on, I grew up in a time when we had the President's Council on keeping America beautiful. And I think that that's important for each of us to take that responsibility and to work together with our businesses to engage them as well.
Thank you so much. All right, so now is the time where we will provide you 2 minutes for your closing statements. Ms. Sanders, you now have 2 minutes.
First, I want to thank you for putting this together and allowing us to have the opportunity for those to see us and to hear our voice. I didn't prepare a speech for this. I wanted you to hear it come from my heart. You said to me that you want to see change. I can't do change without you. You say you want to see a difference in District 3. I can't do without you. I have to have that team, and that team is you, I, District 3, all together as one. If I'm not doing my job as your commissioner, hold me accountable. Don't vote me back in if you don't see change. If you don't see the things that are happening that you want to see based on the property taxes that you are providing and I'm not managing them correctly, do not vote me in. Hold me accountable. That's what it's all about. I am here for the people. I'm a servant of a people. It's not about a politician. I'm a servant and a service for you. I'm here to make a better District 3 because I live in the area. District 3 is almost made of 60% African Americans, and I know what happens within the district. My subdivision alone is one of those crime areas that I live in. I see those things occurring. So as your commissioner, I want to see those things change, not only for my district, but for me as well. I have a daughter that lives here. So I'm a parent. I'm concerned just like you, and I want to see those things change. I want to see a difference. So when you go to the polls and you vote for a difference, a better District 3. I am Elena Sanders.
Thank you. And now, Ms. Schultz, your 2 minutes for closing.
Thank you, Ryan, and thank you to the Democratic Party. I look forward to serving another 4 years as the District Commissioner for District 3. Over the past few years, we've worked together on many issues, such as safety, bringing jobs to Newton County, bringing jobs to the district with Lidl and the new Chrysler dealership. We've worked on infrastructure. We've improved our design standards and our overall county stability for finances. Recently, I learned that, as I said, our bond rating improved from a AA to a AAA. And what that means is that there's more investment potential in the county. That means that on government related bonds, we can get a lower interest rate. We've accomplished a lot, but there is still a lot left to do. And I want to move forward with compassion, economic stability, and growth. And I will continue to champion the items on the strategic plan. You can count on me to be transparent, ethical, and financially responsible. I'll continue to work tirelessly to serve my community. It's said that many hands make light work. We're stronger together, and let's move forward together in Newton. We've seen what the power of community is. Now, I can't let this moment pass without a public health statement. You can get COVID-19 testing. It is available. Even if you do not have symptoms, you can get COVID-19 testing. All you need to do is call this number, 770-513-5631, and schedule an appointment. If you need me, I'm available anytime. My phone number is 770-337-7562. You can reach me at nancy@nancyschultz.com. I'm Nancy Schultz, and I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you so much. Ms. Sanders, Ms. Schultz, I want to thank you both for giving up your time tonight. I want to thank you both for giving up your time to run these rigorous campaigns. I know it's not easy. It is a selfless act to take this on as you divert time away from your growing families, the families that you're raising, grandbabies, the whole lot. I get it as a father myself. So I want to thank you for your service so far, and I'm eagerly awaiting for 701 on June the 9th. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Mike Hesterly. He's going to give a few announcements. But thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thank you, Elena.
Thank you.
Mike, you're muted.
I unmuted myself, but it became muted again. Okay. Am I back? All right, good. I have a reminder for you. Georgia Congressional District 4 is holding weekly webinars to train for virtual phone banking. These webinars are held Saturdays and Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Saturday is for candidates and staff, and Sunday is for anyone wishing to learn how to volunteer for 2020. You can find more information on the Georgia 4th Congressional District Facebook page, and you can subscribe to our mailing list by visiting newtongeorgiadems.org. Once again, these virtual phone banking seminars are held Saturdays and Sundays at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, candidates, for being with us this evening. And I would like to also remind you that our next forum coming up right after this one is candidates for Newton Board of Commissioners District 5. We will return shortly. Thank you.
Paid for and approved by the Newton County Democratic Committee. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.